I'm Carina HOORN. I'm associate professor at the University of Amsterdam, and I'm trained as a geologist, and I specialized in palynology and paleoecology. So what I'm trying to do in my work, in my research, is getting to understand past plant history by using fossil pollen, and at the same time also work in paleobiogeographic reconstructions. That means looking into how the distribution of a particular plant group changed on the globe over the course of time. We don't understand well yet the biodiversity on our globe nor the history of it, and so by looking into the sort of deep past, by understanding the world during global warming, for instance, we can have maybe some preview of what could happen in the future when global warming happens again. We know from the fossil record that when biomes, plant communities, organisms disappear, that doesn't mean they come back when the climate becomes available again. That's also part of the mystery. That's things that we want to understand, is why do organisms disappear forever? Yeah, the Eocene was a fascinating time. So as I was saying, there has been global warming in the past, and most notoriously in the Cretaceous about 100 million years ago, and that persisted until the Eocene. Although it became less warm, the Eocene is sort of the last of the big global warming. And so the early Eocene in particular is very warm, but there are phases like hyperthermals, as they are called, phases of extreme warming and also increase in precipitation. So we are particularly interested in a phase that's called the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum, which was, well, we think had a big effect on the landscape. In that program, I supervised one of the PhD students to look at the vegetation in Balk Anatolia and see how in the Eocene, in the warm climate, what vegetation there was and how this would have been favorable for the organisms that lived there and how it has changed through time. Well, I'm a specialist in palynology, which is the study of fossil pollen and spores, and that's the reproductive material of plants and trees. They are ubiquitous, they are everywhere. So if I would take your hair, I'm sure I will find pollen in there. The Ephidraceae and the Nitrariaceae, those are the arid-minding plant families in Central Asia. We look at them, and we have done a lot of work on those to understand their history and how they were very diverse at the time. And then at the Eocene-Oligocene boundary, they seem to go through a bottleneck. And then later on, they are there again, but they're never as dominant as they were in the Eocene. So those are families that we have particularly spent a lot of time on. In the current one from Benjamin Reynaud, we do see already glimpses of a wetland vegetation that sort of coincides with the time of the organisms that are being studied by the paleontologists. So I've been hearing a lot during the conference about all these fascinating organisms that lived in the in Balk Anatolia, and so we see there was wetland environment and also in the periphery, shallow marine environment. That's what we see from the fossil record. Yeah, it's for me it's a journey of discovery and adventure. So it's something, I think our work as scientists is very different from what many other people do in their daily life. So it's always, we go on our projects, our adventures, you work together towards a goal. So it's yeah, I think in that way, in that sense, very satisfying type of work. Getting research funding is not always easy. We also depend on if the government wants to invest in education. So we cannot be sure of the money available for research. that is challenging. The work in itself can be challenging. Projects don't always go as you want them to go. Yeah, I say that I'm happy that I have been able to do that in my life.